I'm your module leader for customers and consumers. Today I'm going to be briefly going through your module handbook, including the brief for this project. Unpacking this brief in your first session with me, but just to have a bit of an overview, this is the module. It's called Customers and Consumers. It starts on the 25th of September. And your submission is the 11th of December. Now, as always, you get your feedback in 20 working days, so this will take us up to the 22nd of January 2025. Now, this is a 20 credit module, and as I've mentioned, I'm your module leader. My name is Alexandra Hollyman, but you can call me Alex. As always, a version of this is available in Welsh. If that is something you would like to have, just let me know. You can also submit this module through the medium of Welsh, so let me know if this is something that is of interest to you. As always, all work will be second marked by the module leader anyway. But customers and consumers, so this module aims to develop your understanding of the importance of target audiences in producing creative advertising campaigns. It aims to help you to appreciate cultural and social influences and their impact upon consumer behaviour and choice. It aims to identify and critically analyse the various factors that influence consumer behaviour, and it aims to help you to apply knowledge and understanding of customers and consumers to a practical creative advertising project, which is the brief that we will be coming on to today. Now, an overview of the content is that this module returns to a topic introduced in Advertising Fundamentals and builds on the basic knowledge to give you a more in-depth understanding of audiences. So, to develop advertising campaigns that successfully communicate with people, it is important that you develop an understanding of different target audiences and the behaviours and motivators of different consumer groups. In addition to exploring the attributes and behaviours of such groups, this module will also explore how consumer groups and behaviours continually change and adapt to differing contexts. This increased understanding of customers and consumers will then be applied to practical advertising projects. This module will examine the importance of customer and consumer identity within the contemporary marketplace and subsequently within current advertising practice. It will examine the emergence of different socio-demographic groups, changing consumer trends, and the role of identity within consumer behaviour. So as you can see here, there's lots to unpack, but in essence, we will be looking at audiences as a whole, what a customer is, what a consumer is, what the differences are, and how we can best be aware of these groups and how we can target these groups in advertising methods and in advertising projects. So that brings me on to the learning outcomes. So the first learning outcome is to analyse key attributes of different audience groups using various socio-economic models. The second outcome is to understand cultural and social influences and their impact on consumer behaviour and choice. Now, as I mentioned, I'm going to take the entire first session to unpack this with you and what each of these things means within the context of this module. But to have a brief overview of the brief, you will be working individually or in pairs, choosing a brand that interests you. So what would be a really great idea is for you to start thinking now of some brands that you are interested in. It always works best if it's something that you have a bit of an interest in, because you'll be doing a lot of work on this brief, and if you're not that interested, it can be hard to get your teeth into. So you will be working to create an integrated cross-platform advertising campaign for your chosen brand, which will need to target a specific socio-economic group. Now, we're going to do a lot of discussion on what cross-platform and integrated campaigns are, but essentially this is something, a campaign that transcends across platforms. So it's not just you're creating one ad for out of home or one social media ad. This is something that has a cohesive look across several platforms and several disciplines. So you need to think about the current target audience of your brand, as well as the cultural and social influences that impact consumer behaviour and choice. So this means you would look at who is already a customer of the brand that you've chosen, and then look at the wider industry that they sit within, and look at customers as a whole. What does influence those customers and consumers to buy and purchase? So that's what we will be looking at in terms of consumer behaviour and choice. Now, these are the deliverables. So your integrated campaign should include a print campaign featuring 4 different design elements, including magazine and out of home, a cross-platform social media campaign with at least 3 pieces of content for 3 different social media platforms. So what I expect to see here is a different piece of content for a different platform. And then finally, a storyboard for a moving image ad of 45 to 60 seconds. Now, I know you will have touched on storyboards in year 1, so this is something we will just be building on. Now, the important thing is you will be writing your own creative brief for this module. So what that means is you will be discussing and confirming with me both your chosen brand and socioeconomic group, as well as your target audience that you aim to target, a bit of an indication of your campaign tone of voice, so how you were going to speak to that target audience, and then details of the product and brand and any other considerations listed below. Now, don't worry too much about this initially because we will be just discussing this in depth in class. But in terms of target audience, what I would expect to see in your written brief is for you to identify your audience and develop an understanding of their needs, detailing socio and economic groupings. You will then use these insights to inform a consumer persona and to further influence your design decisions. Now, we will be looking a lot at customer and consumer personas, so don't worry too much if this is something that is quite new to you. You will also be doing a considerable amount of research into your target audience, and this again should be reflected in the research section of the PDF that you submit. Now, the tone of voice will be determined by your brand, the products or services that your brand offers, as well as your target audience. You should indicate what tone you are trying to achieve within your campaign and include a brief tone of voice guide to your campaign. Now, we will be going through tone of voice guidelines in depth in class, so please don't worry too much about all of this. Kind of briefing. I don't expect you to know everything. This is exactly what we were going to be going through in our sessions. So this project that you see here is worth 100% of your overall grade for this module. So it's really nice, one big project you can just get your teeth into and work on throughout the entire term and in all of your sessions with me. So for each assessment item, your work will be assessed twofold. Firstly, through a formative assessment, and secondly, through a summative assessment. Now, I would imagine that you're already familiar with these terms now, being in second year, but the formative assessment is at the week 6 point. So this is where you will sit down with me as your module leader and we will go through your progress thus far. Now, I've got a specific list that you basically need to work towards for the formative assessment. So you need to show at least 5 pages of in-depth research into both your chosen socioeconomic group and the brand, as well as then 5 initial design concepts for the creative advertising campaign. So your creatives will obviously be informed by your chosen socioeconomic group and brand. Now, when I say creative design concepts, these absolutely do not need to be fully formed. This is just, a way of you communicating some ideas that you have with regard to your design brief. The design concepts will then be developed throughout the remaining 6 weeks of term. So this is why we do it at the halfway point, so that we can see where you're at and see exactly what you need to work on. Then the summative assessment is the final outcome. So this is what you are submitting in December. You must produce a portfolio of research and campaign ideas to specifically target a specific audience according to your own brief that has obviously been signed off by myself. Research and development of these ideas alongside analysis of your process should also be submitted. You must also include the final outcomes of your advertising campaign for your chosen brand, which will be underpinned by a selected socioeconomic group. So overall, what you need to include is what we discussed previously in the brief is a print campaign featuring 4 elements, including out of home and magazine, a cross-platform social media campaign with at least 3 pieces of content for 3 different social media platforms, a storyboard for a moving image ad of 45 to 60 seconds. Then you have the research element, which will always underpin any creative work, of 60 slides maximum, demonstrating an understanding of your socio-demographic groups, changing consumer trends and consumer behaviour. Now, we're going to go into all of this stuff in depth in class, so please don't be overwhelmed by it. I know I keep saying it, but I know reading the brief for the first time can feel quite daunting. You will then be submitting your detailed customer persona for your target audience and socioeconomic group, your tone of voice guidelines, as I said previously, and then extensive design development and draft campaign ideas shown throughout, along with analysis of design ideas. Now, I'm going to put emphasis on this section because design development is often something that we don't show as well as we could, but I don't just want to see the final outcome, I want to see exactly what you did to get there. All of your choices should be justified and backed by research, which should also be referenced using Harvard referencing. Now, this is always just best practice and something you should be working towards anyway. Also, just to say, guys, you're going to have to excuse my voice. I do have a bit of a cold this week, and as I'm getting through this handbook, it's starting to fail me, but it's fine. We've got this. Now, this is the scheme of work. This can change briefly, but this is the generic idea and what we are working towards over the next few weeks. Now, as you will see, each week has prep that you need to do before the session. I have a task and lecture in the session, and I basically outline everything that is going to be happening over the next 12 weeks. Now, in week 1, I would like you to view this video ahead of the session and familiarise yourself with the brief, and note any questions that you may have, any words that you're unfamiliar with, anything that you would like to discuss with me further. Then in session, we're going to be unpacking the brief, talking about our expectations of you, your expectations of me. We're going to be having a bit of a Q&A over the course of the session, and then we'll have a really brief introduction to customers and consumers. This is basically to outline what a customer is and what a consumer is. You might be surprised, you might think you know what they mean, but if we're going to look at specific definitions, that might not be the case. Then you'll have a task, and as you can see, each week we have a lecture, task and prep. Now, in week 6 is the formative feedback session, so this is where I will be having a one-to-one with each of you to assess your work to date and give feedback. Now, this is a really important note to make, that I won't be assessing you in terms of grade. I'm just going to be giving you feedback that is actionable and feedback that you can work towards, rather than the final assessment where you just get, a grade and feedback retrospectively. This is something that you can use to really elevate your work. So please engage with this session. It is so important. And we've seen time and time again that students that engage with formative feedback and engage with these sessions perform better overall. We will then be In week 7, going through creating a critical path based on this feedback. And for the rest of term, it will be a series of short workshops and completion of work. Now, as I've said previously, this is subject to minor changes. However, I will always make you aware if there's any changes you need to be aware of. I will communicate with you all via Blackboard and individually via email. This is my email. If you need any support, guidance at any time, feel free to contact me, or you can contact your course leader, Lee. If ever you need any help outside of the module or the course, you can go to the advice zone. The first assessment here, as I've mentioned, is formative. This is just an in-class review. However, it is incredibly important to your progression and, just helping you out with ideas, giving you really actionable feedback. So what I expect to see on the 30th is 5 pages of research into the chosen brand, 5 pages of research into the chosen socioeconomic group, and 5 initial campaign ideas. Then the summative assessment is submitted via Blackboard on the 11th of December, and this is all of the work that we have discussed previously in the brief. Now, this is the grading criteria that I will be using and the second marker will be using to mark your work. We mark you on research, analysis and development, as well as the final outcome. So I always strongly suggest reading through this time and time again to understand exactly what it is that we are marking you on. I will discuss this and go through all of this in class with you as well, but it's really important that you have an understanding of what we use to mark your work. Now we've got the reading list. This is also available on the USW library. You can access all of these through the library and I would strongly recommend that you do. Here we have the definitions of the assessment criteria, so really worthwhile reading through this before our first session, as well as some explanation on each of the terms used. As I've mentioned, feedback is really important. It gives you a chance to reflect and improve on your work, and it's such a positive thing. We never give feedback to try and, make you feel bad about your work or to make you feel overwhelmed potentially, but this is to help you and to help you move forward. Then we have formative assessment. This is assessment for learning, so it's not about marking, it's about helping you to, reach your potential and to improve and develop a successful outcome. Then we have summative assessment, which is the assessment of learning. So this is the final assessment where you will get a grade for your work. I've said this briefly, but there's a direct correlation between students who engage and come to the sessions and those who do well and achieve, better grades on the course. If ever you're struggling to engage, please speak to me or the wider course and university team. We're all here to support you at the end of the day, and I will always try and pass you on to any relevant supporting bodies throughout the university if it's something that I can't help you with myself. It's also a discussion about presentation and, the way that we use presentation perhaps in class to present ideas, as well as the description of late submission, extenuating circumstances, etc. Now I know you'll all be aware of this, but please re-familiarise yourself with perhaps what to do if you feel like you can't submit. And as you know, the university adheres to a fit to sit policy, so please make sure that you read through all of this information. I'm going to go through all of this in more depth with you in class because I feel like I'm quite close to losing my voice. But it's really important that you're aware of something called report and support. Now, if you have concerns throughout the course, you can obviously go to the course rep, then to module leader, and then to course leader. However, there can be times where you want to report something, an incident that perhaps you've witnessed, and you can do this using this link here, report and support. It's really important that you're all aware of this and the kind of support that's available to you at USW, both internally on the course and externally throughout things like report and support and the advice zone. And finally here, it's really important that you take care of your own work. All work must be your own. Plagiarism is handled under strictest protocol and can result in withdrawal from the institution. And constant feedback is given throughout the module, as well as in the formative and summative assessment rather. But yeah, that's how I will be grading you. Now, I hope that hasn't been too overwhelming. I know it's a lot of information to go through. At least you have a bit of a head start if you've already got to the end of this video. I am really looking forward to meeting you all, and I can't wait to get started. It's a really lovely module concerning themes that will really help and impact you throughout your other modules. So can't wait to see you on your first session. All information on the room, etc. and time is on the schema work. Let me just find that. So we will be in room CAD 105, so probably not your usual room, but we will be there every Wednesday 10 to 1 p.m. Can't wait to meet you all, and thank you for watching.